The Don Tony and Kevin Castle show contains explicit language and is intended for mature audiences only. But just because you're mature doesn't mean you can't be a little naughty.
So, I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, are you seeing what I'm seeing, or you actually see the glass a little bit more full? You see it a little bit brighter?
I mean, the roster, it seems like it's a little thin right now. I mean, they're bringing up too many guys, I think, from NXT. They're relying on those guys too much. Kevin Owens got no reaction. Doesn't surprise me. He's not that well known. And quite honestly, I don't, once again, I think it's the visual. I think people are looking at some of these guys and like, okay, we got a guy who looks like he's from, what's that movie, Lord of the Rings, like an elf, a muscular elf.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
What's his name? Neville, and we got this guy, Sami Zayn, who looks like the guy who delivers pizza to your house.
He looks like
Joey
Kevin
Owens, who looks like Bully on the playground, who used to be the guy who takes the basketball from the kids.
Yeah.
Once again, people can do all they want, bitch and moan about this one or that one. But I'm telling you, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem with selling tickets. It's going to be a problem with selling merchandise. These guys are, a little too bland, a little too milquetoast. Finn Balor better use that fucking dress-up gimmick, better put that makeup on, because if he comes in as just a pretty boy, he is going to be another, what was the name of that South African guy who came here and we thought he was going to light it up from Nexus and he got released?
Oh,
what was the name of that guy, the pretty boy?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that does not work. Pretty boy does not work. You need something extra.
Well,
you need Finn Balor is a fantastic talent, but he better use that Jeff Hardy gimmick, or it's going to be disastrous. I'm telling you right now. Look how great Matt Sydal was. How'd that work out?
Yeah.
People have to get off this whole, they're real wrestlers. Well, once again, this is a predetermined sport. So real wrestlers, you mean better actors than others? I mean, the whole real wrestler thing, Chris Benoit was a real wrestler. Was he? He never wrestled in college. He was a real wrestler. So, I mean, it just... You have to have some entertainment values. In fact, Kevin Owens' promos are brutal. I didn't like his promo at all. I think he lost it at some point. I think he even was not surprised that he wasn't known. Cena was trying to bail him out. Some of these guys are not ready for prime time, in my opinion. They're just not. And NXT on its own. My brother went there the other night. He's listening right now. He's in the chat room. Shout out to my brother John. And that's a great show on its own. And those guys are doing what they need to do in that environment. But I think to come up to the majors, so to speak, and go, and like to give this spectacular entrance to the elf guy, Neville, who's great and everything, but yeah, he's 5'2", and Mysterio had a mask, and Mysterio had appeal to children, and he was a superhero. Like he was like a legend.
Mysterio without a play
I don't know.
words?
Are these guys really going to be here for the long haul, or are they just basically new versions of London and Kendrick and Kidman? Is that what they are?
Without a play
I don't know.
on
You
words?
tell me. We've seen this. We've seen this before. I mean, I just don't know. But Finn Balor absolutely has to use his chameleon gimmick thing. He has to. He cannot come in here plain Jane, or it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm telling you. Don't you agree? He's got to use that gimmick of dressing up and the monster makeup and stuff like that.
Without a play on words, Mysterio had mystique.
He had mystique. Like I said, it's not to take away that they're good, but listen, sometimes, like I said, to use the baseball analogy, Randy Johnson didn't light it up in New York, but he was great on Arizona, and he was great on other teams. Mo Vaughn was great on other teams, didn't light it up when he became a Met. Sometimes it doesn't work out when you go from another team, even though they're in the same company technically. It's not a given that they're going to get over, that they get brought up to the big leagues. They're getting over for now, and Sami Zayn was over. Yeah, in Montreal, where he's from, where there's not a lot. He's one of the biggest names of all time. That's the Rick Martel and the Quebecer. So I mean, come on. I mean, really, that's what you're basing it on. They purposely plan that. It's a given. It's a fucking doomy. That you put a guy in his hometown. Okay, we've had Kevin Owens come out tonight in Virginia. Didn't get a sparrow's fart. So what are you saying?
Well,
we can set up everyone. We can have, I can have a local band from Queens play Queens, get a standing ovation. I'll put them in Philadelphia, and no one will be there. So what's the point?
What I'm
saying? It doesn't. Come on. I thought that was hysterical. Sami Zayn is over. Yeah, in Montreal.
Yeah, let me.
And he's over on NXT cards because he's an NXT guy.
Right.
Kevin Owens scares me. I don't think he's. I don't know. They might he's kind of like a modern day Bubba Ray Dudley.
Well, yeah. Well, let me just add a little bit to what you say. Number one, I disagree with you on Kevin Owens. However, Kevin Owens reminds me of Bully Ray. And, just the stockiness. I mean, obviously, Bully Ray.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about, overall gimmick, I guess.
But the thing is this. I like Kevin Owens. I think he did fine tonight. I think when Kurt Angle had his open challenge, 12, 13 years ago, whenever it was, and John Cena came out, a lot of people didn't know who John Cena was either. So John Cena coming out at that time and Kevin Owens coming out now, I mean, you can't...
Well, wait a second, though. John Cena was up against a lot more obstacles. Ohio Valley Wrestling was not... watched, and they did not have their own network, and they did not plug NXT constantly. Ohio Valley was the best kept secret to the underground people. Like, we all know the big class that came out of that 2002 lineup: Batista, Shelton Benjamin, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Randy Orton. We all know that as wrestling fans, and now the new generation knows that because they see it constantly on WWE television on the network.
Right.
So NXT has a huge advantage.
Right. Oh no, I agree with you
publicity.
with that. I agree with you with that. But what I'm saying is this. I think people need to understand something about NXT. Yes, you could see stuff on YouTube. Yes, you could see stuff on bootleg websites online. You could go in the chat room and see NXT, without subscribing to the network. But right now, there's only about 1.5 million people subscribed to the WWE Network. And WWE NXT on the network only gets about 200,000 views. So you're talking about the WWE Universe and only 100 to 200,000 views of NXT. All right, that's not even a half or a third of.
No, but they get a lot more play. And they tour. They're doing tours now. Ohio Valley just wrestled in Kentucky and Cincinnati.
No, I'm talking about NXT.
They didn't wrestle anywhere else. Who the fuck lives there? No offense.
Right, but what I'm saying is that I think people need to understand that NXT doesn't have the viewership, as much of a viewership as people think it does.
But it's got the social media buzz. And also in 2002, there was no Facebook. MySpace just came up at that point and wasn't even popular yet. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of tangibles to, go over why this is this way and why that was that way.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is this. Kevin Owens definitely could be a star. Finn Balor, Sami Zayn definitely could be stars.
I'm not saying they can't be stars, but they have to tweak the gimmick a little bit.
Oh, sure.
But Finn Balor has a built-in gimmick, but I hear that he only puts the makeup on for special occasions. That's going to change real quick when they see some reactions that he gets. He's got to have that spectacular entrance with the makeup, and he will get over huge.
Yeah.
He will if he comes out as just another pretty boy. People will be like, seen this before with this guy, that guy, Paul London. I've seen this before. That's what people are going to do. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's just the way it's going to go down. But it's something different. Because people say, well, Jeff Hardy does that whole chameleon thing. But I think Finn Balor does, and I understand it takes a lot to do that, the makeup. It's not just like putting on makeup like Sting, Ultimate Warrior. That's why they don't go all out to do it. But I think if he's going to be special, you got to do that.
Well, I will say this. What people need to understand, not just the fact that, NXT is just a small decimal point of an audience. It's the paying audience. I want every single person that's listening right now, if you're a fan of any of the people that we mentioned, even if you think that they're major stars and even if you think that they're going to be future stars of tomorrow, that's fine. I'm not disagreeing with you. But you people listening, how many of you out there, honestly, to yourself, would dig deep in your pocket and buy and spend $50 to see Kevin Owens main event a WWE house show? Or how many of you out there is going to dig in $50 or $40 to buy 2 T-shirts of these guys? The Kevin Owens shirt is cool. It's a big K and it's a big O. But are you going to buy the next shirt that comes out and the shirt after that comes out? And how many people out there are going to buy, pay-per-views? Yes, you could get the network for $9.99, but the thing is that, when Kevin and I were growing up, okay, And when we throw a little old school and new school in there, and it's not because Kevin and I missed the '70s or the '80s. The only thing I missed with the '70s is that I was a little bit too young to get into Studio 54 and do cocaine and get a blowjob at the same time. That's what I miss about the '70s. Okay, when we go back, it's because I want people to understand, and Kev wants you to understand too. Wrestling has been around for decades and decades and decades and decades. There's a formula that works, and there's a formula that don't work. If the formula of Ring of Honor worked, Ring of Honor would, after 12, 13 years, generate more than 300-400 people at a show. They have to depend on WrestleMania to try to draw attention because there's extra people in the wrestling mood. Okay, they have to depend on other people's events to try to get extra people to go to their shows. Okay, there is, in the history of wrestling, there's always been larger than life people. Kevin and I couldn't wait to pick up the next wrestling magazine to see what all the stars that we followed, the larger than life people that we saw. When we used to go to the shows, we would look up in awe at Andre or even people like NXT SuperStar or anybody out there. And then you go to the 80s. And then it started getting more storyline. You had the Warrior, you had Savage, you had Steamboat, where the size of the wrestler was what got a little bit smaller. But if anybody, and Kev, I think you'll agree with me on this. If anybody out there thinks that WrestleMania 3 sold the majority of their tickets because of Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat is on heroin, okay? That storyline of Hogan versus Andre that built up for a year was the reason why that building sold as many tickets as it did. Kev, maybe my history is a little bit cloudy because of my car accident. Fucked up my brain a little bit. When you were young like me, growing up, watching fucking WWE in 1985, 86, 87, all right, and they were pushing the Hogan-Andre feud. Do you remember a lot of people, the magazines all saying, like, WrestleMania 3 is going to sell out because of, look at the build they're doing for Macho Man versus Steamboat?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so look, it ended up being the match of the night, and it's become legendary because a lot of young stars or wrestlers that became stars became fans because of that match. Okay, so what that match did to future wrestlers and future fans is what it did. But at that time in the Pontiac Silverdome, that place did not sell out even a quarter because of Macho Man Steamboat. That match took a life of its own after it took place. Okay, so all I'm saying is that if you look at wrestling over the last 40, 50 years, even the last 30 years, because wrestling exploded in 1984. You look at wrestling in the last 30 years, and you tell me any point in the last 30 years where people like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt, and Kevin and I are huge fans of Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family and fucking all this. You tell me an era where you saw the crop of wrestlers, try to compare them. There was always larger-than-life stars. There was always people that sold out 20, 30,000 seat buildings, people that you just wish you could be. We always fantasized when we were young, God, I wish I was the Macho Man. Oh man, if I was a wrestler, I wish I was Ricky Steamboat. I wish I was Hulk Hogan. I don't think anybody wished they were Andre. But does anybody out there really close their eyes and say, man, one day I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be just like Kevin Owens? Well, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be just like Sami Zayn. You take the orange beard off of Sami Zayn and you take the beard off of Kevin Owens and you take a little bit of his attitude off and you take his shirt off. And you tell me if he looks like he's going to be a big star of tomorrow. You might as well put a moon. And look, I'm a huge fan of Kevin Owens, but take his shirt off and shave his beard. You might as well put a star and a moon on his stomach and go,
he's not that big. He's not that big. Let's not exaggerate.
No, he's not that big. But I'm just saying, it's like preparing a meal, and Spam is the main course. Or you try to have like a 5-star dinner. You have a date. All right, you're gonna have your first date, and instead of taking her out to dinner, you say, "Hey, come over to my house, baby. I'll cook for you." And then you realize, shit, I didn't buy any steak. You know what? Let me get this cube steak. Because all the good steak is sold out, and I try to cover little things over it to try to make it look really good. I put little carrots, I put a little this, try to make everything really look look good. But when you start taking little things off, would you spend $30 on a cube steak dinner with fucking 39-cent carrots on it, even if it looks halfway decent? None of these stars coming up, look like big stars of tomorrow. It seems like John Cena, it's weird, Kev, because 12, 13 years ago, you and I remember the conference call that Linda McMahon had. And they asked her, who did you see the stars of tomorrow? And she said, we have these two people up and coming. Their names are John Cena and Randy Orton. And this was before they ever debuted on TV. And then you look at the current state of wrestling, and it seems like John Cena and Randy Orton are the two biggest stars in WWE, and you show me the gap. You tell me who else is even close to being on the level. Forget John Cena. Who's even close to being on the level of a Randy Orton?
Yeah.